South Korea returns as a non-permanent member of UN Security Council after 11 years. It vows to contribute as a global pivotal state, including on North Korean issues. We have more on the significance of this status. A major dam collapsed in southern Ukraine as the war rages on. Both Kyiv and Moscow blame each other. The World Bank revises up its global growth outlook slightly to 2.1%, but still a full 1 percentage point lower than last year's growth rate.
Good afternoon. South Korea has returned as a non-permanent member of UN Security Council after 11 years. South Korea's ambassador to UN pointed to the North Korean issue among the top agendas, vowing to expand cooperation not only with the US and Japan, but also with China and Russia. Here's our top story.
Republic of Korea, 180.
South Korea was elected to the UN Security Council on Tuesday, winning support of more than 2/3 of the UN General Assembly. The 2-year term as a non-permanent member kicks off at the start of next year. This marks the country's return to the Security Council after 11 years and only the 3rd time it has been on the council. Also elected for a temporary seat in the 15-member body are Algeria, Guyana, Sierra Leone, and Slovenia, representing their respective regions. South Korea's ambassador to the UN, Hwang Jin-gu, pledged to expand South Korea's role as global pivotal state, that by increasing cooperation with developing countries, given the nation's own transition from a global aid recipient to a donor nation. He also pointed to North Korean issues as a key agenda amid increased provocations by the regime.
We are ready to deal with other significant regional and thematic Security Council issues, including counterterrorism and the long-standing DPRK issues, both nuclear and the human rights situation.
South Korea may have a stronger voice on North Korean issues now that it is part of the only UN body that can make legally binding decisions like imposing sanctions and authorizing use of force. The ambassador stressed enhancing cooperation with the US and Japan on the matter, highlighting the 3 taking UN Security Council seats together for the first time since 1997. However, as the body cannot make a decision if there is a veto from one of the 5 permanent members, the ambassador vowed to expand cooperation with China and Russia, despite their stance on North Korea unlikely to change.
As mentioned in the previous report, there's much anticipation over South Korea raising its voice on North Korean issues amid increased provocations by the regime. Our foreign affairs correspondent Pyeonji has more on the implications of the country's change in status in the UNSC.
As a non-permanent member of the UN Security Council for 2 years beginning in 2024, South Korea will be able to better address North Korea-related issues. It will now be involved directly in discussions and debates regarding statements and resolutions passed by the Security Council, which has the primary responsibility to maintain international peace and security. According to an expert speaking to Arirang News, South Korea's role as one of the 10 non-permanent UNSC members is symbolic, as it shows the country's position as a legitimate world leader, noting that South Korea's position in the global community has been growing for the last 20 years or so.
So South Korea's membership on the council is significant insofar as it now participates directly in voting on resolutions that are binding on all member states.
He also added that South Korea will be able to express its desires to the international community, particularly on matters that the country has a great interest in, such as human rights and nuclear proliferation. As a member of the Council, South Korea will also be able to strengthen trilateral cooperation with the U.S., a permanent member, and Japan, a member of the Council for the 2023 to 2024 term. This is the first time since 1997 that the 3 countries have taken seats at the UN Security Council together. As North Korea has recently ramped up the development of its nuclear and missile programs, the 3 countries have been working together to better respond to those threats. In fact, over the weekend, South Korea, the U.S., and Japan agreed to operate a system to share North Korean missile warning data in real time before the end of this year. However, there are still challenges in order to implement strong measures against North Korea, as the UN Security Council cannot make a decision if there's a veto from one of the 5 permanent members, which includes China and Russia, with both countries unlikely to change their position on Pyongyang. 배은지, Arirang News.
Despite difficulties in taking action against North Korea due to China and Russia's veto power at the UN Security Council, the U.S. says Washington won't tolerate violations by Pyongyang. That's according to U.S. State Department Undersecretary for Arms Control Bonnie Jenkins at a meeting hosted by the Center for New American Security on Tuesday. Jenkins called China and Russia's positions against the other 3 permanent members of the UN Security Council members challenging. When asked if Washington is no longer pursuing denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula, she says the U.S. has still not given up. As South Korea commemorated Memorial Day on Tuesday, President Yoon highlighted the upgraded Seoul-Washington alliance that's now based on nuclear force while vowing to recognize the sacrifices of the fallen heroes. Our presidential office correspondent Kim Do-yeon reports.
As South Korea celebrates its 68th Memorial Day, President Yoon took the opportunity to emphasize national defense in front of fallen heroes at Seoul National Cemetery. Pointing towards North Korea's missile and nuclear provocations, he touted the new Washington Declaration and the enhanced support it ensures.
저와 바이든 대통령은 지난 4월 미 핵 자산의 확장 억제 실행력을 획기적으로 강화하는 워싱턴 선언을 공동 발표했습니다. 한미 동맹은 이제 핵 기반 동맹으로 격상되었습니다.
During his speech, he also took the chance to remind the country of the importance of remembering and honoring the fallen soldiers. Specifically, he repeated words heroes and freedom 8 times in his 9-minute speech, with words remember and respect also appearing for multiple times. This comes as the Yoon administration has reorganized the government to upgrade veteran affairs to full-fledged ministry status from the sub-ministry level. He also said the country has to pay tribute to the patriots and fallen soldiers to be recognized by the international community as a proper nation.
대한민국은 국민이 주인인 나라, 자유민주주의 국가를 건설하기 위해 독립과 건국에 헌신하신 분들, 공산 전체주의 세력에 맞서 자유를 지켜내신 분들의 희생과 헌신 위에 서 있습니다. 이분들은 국가의 영웅입니다.
During the ceremony, President and First Lady Kim Gun-hee also attended the burial of a recently identified fallen soldier from the Korean War, Kim Bong-hak, as his body was laid alongside his brother Kim Sung-hak, already resting at the Seoul National Cemetery. According to the spokesperson for the top office, President Yoon also paid an unexpected visit to the part of the cemetery where Vietnam War veterans and those that died fighting North Korean spies were laid. This part was made in 1981, and it was the first time a sitting president visited and paid their respects. According to an official at the top office, the move could be seen as a reminder of the alertness required for the nation with what's currently happening on the peninsula. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Over in Ukraine, a major dam collapsed in southern part of the country, prompting mass evacuation as the war continues on. Both Kyiv and Moscow blame each other for the breach. Lee Sing-jae has more.
Thousands are being evacuated after the destruction of a dam in the Ukrainian city of Novokakhovka on Tuesday. According to President Vladimir Zelenskyy, some 80 towns and villages are at risk of flooding, with authorities saying some 40,000 people needed to evacuate as water is surging down the Dnipro River, creating a flood risk for the Ukrainian city of Kherson. Zelenskyy blamed the collapse on Russia, saying it's impossible for Ukraine to have done it from the outside, as the dam is under Russian control.
It is physically impossible to blow it up somehow from the outside, by shelling. It was mined. It was mined by the Russian occupiers, and they blew it up.
However, Moscow denies the allegations, saying that the dam's collapse was due to nothing other than an act of sabotage by Ukraine. The Kremlin added that Kyiv conducted the act to distract attention from a failed counteroffensive against Russian forces. Speaking to reporters, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Ukraine was also trying to deprive Russian-annexed Crimea of the fresh water it receives from the reservoir. Meanwhile, White House spokesperson John Kirby said Tuesday that Washington cannot say conclusively who's to blame for the dam collapse, but added that the damage to the Ukrainian people and to the region will be significant. Despite the impact the dam collapse could have, President Zelenskyy says the incident will not affect Ukraine's planned counteroffensive operation. Taken to Telegram on Tuesday, Zelenskyy stressed that the destruction of the dam would not affect Kyiv's ability to deoccupy its territories. Zelenskyy says Russia acted chaotically in destroying the dam, ultimately allowing their own weapons to be flooded in the process. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy said a ceasefire between Kyiv and Moscow will not lead to sustainable peace. His remarks came during a meeting on Tuesday with Cardinal Matteo Zuppi, special envoy of Pope Francis, who was on a two-day visit to Ukraine to carry out a peace mission. The two discussed the war in Ukraine, including the implementation of the Ukrainian peace formula, in detail. Zelenskyy called for joint efforts, diplomatic isolation, and pressure on Russia to influence Moscow and bring peace to Ukraine. Over in Haiti, at least 3 people have been killed in an earthquake after devastating floods took more than 50 lives. Kim Jung-sil has the latest.
An earthquake on Tuesday has caused buildings to collapse and devastated the city of Jeremy. Another natural disaster only days after massive floods took dozens of lives. Torrential rain that fell from Friday till Sunday caused floods and landslides across Haiti. The floods killed at least 51 people and injured 140. The local government says 18 are still missing. The footage of people picking up clothing that has been washed away by the flood shows just how much rain poured in the area. This mother lost a child.
I lost a 5-year-old child. I risked losing 2, but God left the other one hanging in a tree. I saved one, but I lost one anyway.
Authorities say more than 30,000 houses have been flooded. The United Nations Secretary General spokesperson Stefan Dujarric told reporters on Tuesday that the Secretary General extended his condolences to the families of the victims and said the UN is ready to help Haiti.
The UN stands ready to work with the Haitian authorities and other partners to help ease the suffering of those in need as it relates to the earthquake and, of course, the other natural disaster, which is the flooding.
But he added that the ongoing insecurity and damage to roads are hampering any relief efforts. Rescue operations are also hindered by Haiti's ongoing problem with criminal gangs that are in control of many areas. Kim Jung-sil, Arirang News.
The World Bank has slightly raised its outlook for the global economy this year, but is still at a lower level compared to last year's growth rate. It projects a further pessimistic outlook for next year. Our economics correspondent Shina Young has more.
The latest global growth outlook for this year has been set at 2.1%. That's according to the World Bank's Global Economic Prospects report released Tuesday, which has revised up its previous forecast of 1.7% from back in January. The revision comes as the U.S., China, and other key economies have proven more resilient than expected. But it's well below the 2022 growth rate of 3.1% due to geopolitical conflicts like the situation in Ukraine, supply chain risks, and monetary tightening around the world. The World Bank also cut its global growth forecast for 2024 to 2.4% from 2.7% in January, citing the ongoing effects of monetary policy, which has seen business investment reduced. It also raised concerns over the possibility of a further economic slowdown caused by stress in the banking sector. By region, the U.S. economy is expected to grow at 1.1% this year, while China's growth is expected to climb to 5.6% due to its recovery from COVID-19 lockdowns. However, the bank cut its previous 2024 forecast for both countries. In the Eurozone, growth is forecast to slow to 0.4% in 2023 from 3.5% in 2022 due to the lagged effect of monetary policy tightening and energy price increases. The outlook for South Korea's growth was not mentioned in the report, but the bank expects East Asian economies to improve alongside China's recovery. Meanwhile, on the back of the revised outlook, U.S. stocks closed higher on Tuesday. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 0.03%, while the tech-heavy Nasdaq gained 0.36%. The S&P 500 rose 0.24% to finish at its highest level since August last year. 신하영, Arirang News.
South Korea is looking to resolve construction and foreign labor issues through deregulation. In a meeting headed by Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho on Wednesday, the government announced measures to relax regulations for investment projects. Infrastructure problems at Cheongsong Industrial Complex, located in Sejong, were cited as an example, with essential pipelines now set to be built to provide industrial water to the construction site. Foreigners wishing to teach at Korean cram schools will now also only need to be a minimum in their third year of university to teach online, as is the case for Korean nationals, instead of having a bachelor's degree. People in South Korea have been finding creative ways to grapple with high consumer prices. The LIV's trend sees financial service app users earning pocket money simply by walking. Jin has a story.
More people in South Korea have been downloading mobile phone apps that provide financial services, namely online banking apps, not for loans, investments, or money transfers, but for cash rewards. A growing number of apps in South Korea are offering micropayment rewards for completing simple tasks, ranging from walking a certain number of steps per day, tapping icons, or answering questions for AI training purposes. Groups of office workers can be seen outdoors during their lunch breaks, either walking or frantically tapping their mobile phone screens, all to earn pocket money.
Living costs have increased sharply, so I'm using this app to help me out, even just a little bit. It's also nice to take a walk like this.
In a time of economic hardship, with the country grappling with inflation and high youth unemployment rates, such opportunities to earn money, however small, have become more popular and widespread. A recent survey by a local job portal found that as many as 3 out of 4 South Korean adults are engaging in such activities. And while overall inflation may be cooling, the prices of some things are still on the rise, which can be seen from office workers using the app rewards to save money for coffee.
So far in a month and a half, I've collected just over $1. I like that this app makes me walk outside. It's nice. I'm planning to collect $3 to $4 for a cup of coffee.
Some experts, though, have warned that users take caution when exchanging personal information for the opportunity to earn pennies, as most of the agreements that users mindlessly agree to include sharing information with third parties. Jin, Arirang News.
Let's take a look at what's going on in the world now. In the United States, former New Jersey Governor Christie has launched his 2024 presidential election campaign. This is Christie's second attempt at winning the seat after falling well short of the Republican presidential nomination in 2016. The former Trump supporter turned critic has joined a number of Republicans, all vying for the party's presidential nomination. Christie has accused sitting President Joe Biden and former leaders Donald Trump and Barack Obama of dividing America. His launch comes a day after former Vice President Mike Pence filed paperwork for his own bid for the Republican presidential nomination. But it will be an uphill battle for those candidates, as Donald Trump is currently leading the polls by a wide margin. The PGA Tour announced on Tuesday that it will merge with rival LIV Golf. The new surprise partnership will also include Europe's DP World Tour and will form a new collectively owned entity aimed at unifying the game. The US-based PGA and its Saudi-backed rival have been at odds since LIV launched in June last year. The PGA filed a series of legal disputes against LIV. It accused LIV and its financial backers of interfering in PGA business by offering its players millions of dollars to break their PGA contracts. The PGA temporarily banned players that participated in LIV events and even considered a lifetime ban. The new partnership announcement has drawn criticism from some golf players and the families of the 9/11 terrorist attacks, who accuse the PGA of hypocrisy. And finally, the first man to run the 100-meter sprint in under 10 seconds has died at the age of 76. Once known as the world's fastest man, Jim Hines made history by running the 100-meter sprint at the U.S. Championships in Sacramento in June 1968 in a hand-timed 9.9 seconds. He then went on to the Mexico City Olympics in October that same year, where he ran the sprint in an electronically timed 9.95 seconds to win his first individual Olympic gold medal. Born in 1946 in the U.S. state of Arkansas, Hines was initially interested in baseball and football, but was asked to try running by his high school track coach. Matthew Ashley, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. Central regions are under cloudy skies with a chance of passing rain in some upper regions from this afternoon into the evening. Also look out for thunderstorm and perhaps hail at times. Afternoon highs are going up a couple of degrees higher today. Gyeongsangdo provinces and nearby areas are seeing highs jumping above 30 degrees Celsius this afternoon under sunnier skies. So expect to have very high UV rays for those in the south, so please don't forget your sun protection items before stepping outside. Daejeon and Gwangju are seeing highs in the upper 20s. Daegu and Gyeongju are much warmer this afternoon, and we're expecting breathable air quality nationwide all day today. And for the rest of the week, central parts of the country will see frequent showers, while the south remains mostly sunny with a chance of rain through the weekend. Meanwhile, east of Gangwon-do province remains dry, rising wildfire risks, so please be careful with anything that could cause a blaze. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
Thank you so much for watching. Have a great rest of the day.